question or thought about the description being on the agenda that does not match the discussion or it being unclear. There's only one individual that has raised this point.
Okay, and then I also had in my notes that there was an acknowledgement that some supplementary documents were not posted online for one of the meetings, at least. Acknowledgement of failure to include notices of rights under the Sunshine Ordinance, and failing to post all of the relevant documents because of that supplementary document on the internet. Are you also saying that you don't agree with that acknowledgement?
No, I will agree that there are, and I can't recall which item, but I know it was during that transition period between loss of staff. I know there was a question of whether or not there was a grant or support. The entire Behavioral Health Commission is being supported by staff, a third entity, that for all this period of time, when new legislation came into place, which was activated at the beginning of the year, the Behavioral Health Commission and DPH will be taking over the staffing. However, they've been trying to come up to speed. But the point is that they're more than likely, and I cannot tell you, I mean, once again, I'm trying to be transparent. We're trying to get through this, that of all the filings that were done during the entire transitory period from face-to-face to telephonic to Zoom, and as you evidenced with Mr. Hilliard having technical difficulties, there is a possibility that the 4 sheets that include the document for disabilities, English, language differences, and that those addendums that go along with the original agenda that is being posted could have been left off. I can't tell you which one. I know it's very minimal. I know that it seemed to be rectified around the period of June, maybe June, July, around that area. So I cannot say no, that never happened.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just looking. Yeah, I guess I was looking at P311 in the item number 7 for the agenda, where you just say that where did it just go? At the time that things were posted, you thought it was sufficient, but now having done training, you understand it needs to be what needs to be there to best inform the public of meeting content.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to justify. All I can tell you is that if you go through a year or two like we all went through, and you have 4 or 5 different hands on a document that is time sensitive, and requires certain items to be attached, it's not impossible that something was left off during one of those periods of time. Like I said, I can't go back and identify which one. I concede it's highly likely that there was some addendum that is generally attached to all agendas that go out, not just the Behavioral Health Commission, may have been left off.
Yeah, on 311, I guess there was one attachment on the July 15th meeting that was left off.
Yeah, it may have been July 15th. I'll go in there while we're talking and try to look at it, because it's right there in his the complainant's for lack of a better word, pile. And then again, I don't know, is this under 2001? Which one is this under?
This is under the item number 7. So 20100.
20100, okay.
Yeah, I just
Do you know
wondered
what
if you changed that acknowledgement, but you say you can't refute it, basically, and it does seem like you acknowledge it on those pages.
I cannot, just, there's the legal law and then there's the spirit. And I mean, in my own spirit, I cannot say that did not happen. It's just, I mean, the amount of filings that we do are massive. And it just, during that training period, somebody might have left it off. They got the agenda up, but they left off the other stuff. So, yes, if you're looking for a yes or no, yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to see if you still agreed with that. Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Member Schmidt, still have anything to add? Your hand is.
Sorry, my mistake. I never lowered the hand signal. There you go.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions or clarifications from either party's members? If not, let's move to rebuttals. Mr. Greer, each party will have 3 minutes. The respondent goes first. Mr. Greer, you're first. Wait for Ms. Leger with the clock.
Mr. Greer, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to present, and this has been a very, 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 very well-deserved learning process coming before the task force. I would urge and hope that in the future, as you get another bevy of complaints, that you see fit to consolidate those as well. We as a commission move forward and strive to do the best that we can to serve the community. We provide a vehicle for the public commentary. We are the gatekeeper for the public to provide advice to the Department of Public Health as well as the Behavioral Health Services. We are that one voice, that one public entity that allows this direct communication. We would like to continue and get back to the job that we're committed to perform and adhere to all guidelines suggested by the Sunshine Task Force, the Brown Act, or anybody else. That is our purpose, and that is our building. That is what we're building towards. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I mean, a lot of it is there. It's in writing. You kind of understand it. You understand what's going on between the two parties. And I think that we fully understand the weight and why there is a Sunshine Task Force, why there is a hearing like this. So as we move forward, we hope that we will be on. We hope that we'll be able to move forward and have a stronger footing, so to speak. And that's it. I don't have too much more to say than that.
Okay, thank you. And Petitioner Mr. Hillier, you have 3 minutes. Wait for Ms. Leger.
Mr. Hillier, are you ready?
I'm ready, Ms. Leger.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Leger. We think that the commission should be stopped from asserting any defenses to the counts that were previously in 20100. We're hearing a lot of background noise, a lot of clinking and clanking. Could you please put yourself on mute? Thank you. I'm still hearing it.
Yeah, please. Okay, please stop for a moment. Could everybody who is not except for Mr. Hillier, please put themselves on mute. Press *6. I'll wait. I won't restart the meeting until folks do that or on the phone. *6, please.
Chair Wolf, I
Okay,
will go ahead and mute everybody. And you can unmute, our speaker can unmute himself once I mute everyone. I cannot tell the difference.
Go ahead. Okay, Mr. Hillier, *6. There you go. Oh, no. There you go.
Okay. I never got the message that I was muted. So when I pressed *6, I muted myself. Then it said I've been unmuted.
You're good. You're good. Okay, continue.
All right. As was discussed when 20100 was heard in committee, the commission has basically admitted to all of the claims. And I would point out that there are actually 8 claims associated with 20100, and the 8th one got left off the end of the page. Only the first page was included, and it was the sole thing on the second page. So I think that 72 hours advance warning should mean that it needs to be on the website for 72 hours before the meeting. Otherwise, what you're going to have is they're going to hold meetings on Tuesday, and they're going to send the notice to the IT department over the weekend, satisfying the 72-hour requirement, and the IT department's not going to post it until Monday, and so you'll get 26 hours of notice or something like that. So I really don't think that's a good enough solution. I think 72 hours means you need to work out with the IT department what you need to do in order to make sure that it's before the public for 72 hours. And that's all. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, the complaint is with us now to deliberate and come to an action and conclusion. Now we speak about the merits. Okay, if no one's going to speak up, Member Stein?
Yeah, I'll just say, I'm inclined to find violation on 67.7A, not because the agenda wasn't up 72 hours in advance, because I think a reasonable effort was made to get the agenda up in advance, but because of IT and the pandemic, it didn't, it was 56 hours in advance instead of 72. But I do think there's an acknowledgement that, and I saw that a lot of the agenda items would be hard to follow them if you were a member of the public and understand what was going to be discussed in them. And then 67.7B, there's already an acknowledgement that, an attachment, at least one attachment we know of didn't get posted online or on the internet. And then there's also an acknowledgement of 67.7G, failure to notice the rights under the Sunshine Ordinance. I realize all this happened in a transitional phase, and it sounds like the BHC did not have strong leadership helping to have continuity or much understanding of newer members, but it still ends up violating the Sunshine Ordinance. So that's my perspective.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? So I want to start with this. I mean, the question is what is this body? Does this body fall under the jurisdiction of the Sunshine Ordinance? The contention and the response.
Point of order. I thought I heard a motion being made. Did I not hear that?
No, it wasn't a motion. I'm just
Okay.
I'm saying where I was standing.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing the response from the respondent with regards to the status of this body based upon the advice that they received and within their testimony, that the Behavioral Health Commission is not a charter commission, nor does it fall under the rules that would apply to appointive boards and commissions. And in the same token, with regards to, as Member LaHood brought up, 67.3D as a policy body. Actually, if you read, I think it's important that we determine whether this body is in fact a local agency body and what it actually does fall under. People do make mistakes. Maybe they don't, they miss something. I think if you look at, you have to go to the Welfare Institutions Code, but it's 5602 that actually, where the state law provides the authority for the creation of it. And I think it's pretty clear in this section as to what really the status of the commission is. And it states just really one sentence. It says the Board of Supervisors of every county or the boards of supervisors of counties acting under the joint powers provision of Article 1 shall establish a community mental health service to cover the entire area of the county or counties. It doesn't, it is authorizing the county to create it for the county. That, to me, is very clear that it is not a state body, and it's not created by the electors. It's created by the Board of Supervisors in and of itself to in fact create it at a local level. So then if we go back to 67.3D, you would look at number 3, which says any board, commission, committee, or other body created by ordinance or resolution of the Board of Supervisors. To me, that speaks fairly clear. Okay, if I'm inclined to hear maybe what our legal counsel might have to say about that, but what about everybody else? Member Stein.
Yeah, I just want to mention one other thing when I was looking at, this body and how it was created, that if you go to the mental health board of San Francisco, it talks about the state of California passing a, it's part of mental health board, right?
It's section.
Chair Wolf, I can answer that. It was previously known as the Mental Health Board, but recently there was an ordinance changing it to Behavioral Health Commission.
For a second, thank you. Yes, that's correct. So for a second, I got like, okay, wait. But in their own history page, they say that in 1957, the state of California passed this act to give counties the responsibility for providing treatment and care to the mentally ill through community-based and community-operated mental health systems. And the legislature at that time mandated the establishment of a mental health board in each county. But it goes on to say, San Francisco, however, had already established its own MHB a year earlier than that. And when the state legislation came along, it incorporated that language into its city ordinance regarding the board. So again, to me, that sort of reinforces that it's a city group.
Or actually county, because they're...
Well, right, county, yes.
Yeah.
And that's on the history page of the Mental Health Board of San Francisco.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Vice Chair Yankee.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I do definitely think this is something that would be under our jurisdiction, that it was created. I guess I continue to have a question. I don't know how much it ultimately affects this case, but I still do have some questions about the quorum issue on this. I tend to think that it does not fall under 4.101, because I don't think it is a charter commission. It seems to be an ordinance that was enacted kind of in compliance with state law, and I don't see it being a branch of the executive office, although it's worth noting that in Welfare and Institutions Code 5604, subsection C, it does talk about the term of each member of the board shall be for 3 years. And it says the governing body shall equitably stagger the appointments so that approximately 1/3 of the appointments expire in each year. And so I guess the question I would have, and perhaps this is something our legal counsel could weigh in on, is how does that state law that kind of interacts with the terms of something created by a local ordinance, does that set it in like a hard cap at 3 years, like 3 years and 1 day? Is this term expired? Is there any type of holdover provision in the city and county law that interacts with that? Because I do think state law clearly speaks to the term of these appointments, and if some of them are extending way beyond 3 years, I don't know if that would be an acceptable continuation of the term, even though it may not fall under the specific city code that talks about holdovers. So maybe legal counsel, could you speak on that a little bit?
DCA Castillo, are you still there? You may have to press *6. We can't hear you. DCA Castillo, are you still there?
Hi. Okay. Sorry. Press *6 like 3 times.
Good.
Sorry. No, what I was going to say is, I would need to look at the San Francisco ordinance and the local ordinances to see how the state Welfare and Institute Code 5604 works with the local court. So it's something that, we can get back to you on, but I couldn't give you an interpretation on the spot right now.
Okay.
And what about 5602?
Same. Yeah.
Okay.
Chair
I
Wolf,
didn't know that was an issue. Anyway, we'll look at it and see.
I guess my concern would be that if some of these appointments are no longer valid, then the body might not have a quorum to begin with. If it doesn't have a quorum to begin with, all these things about what happened in certain meetings or didn't happen is kind of a moot point, because those meetings should never have occurred. If it doesn't have quorum, then they shouldn't be holding any meetings. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not sure we can move ahead and talk about, well, did this meeting have an agenda posting or this meeting not, if we don't even know if the meeting should have occurred in the first place. That's where I'm at on this one.
Chair Wolf, this is Victor Young.
Sure.
Yes, in general, as in my role as the Rules Committee clerk, in terms of holdovers are indefinite until they are replaced by another person, and there is no limit on a holdover unless it's one of the charter committees.
Correct. I was just going to say that because we fall under that same rubric.
Except the difference in this case is that our body, the Sunshine Ordinance, is created purely by city ordinance. There's no state law that says our terms end on such and such a date, and even goes as far as talk about how terms should be staggered. In this case, we have a unique aspect of state law dictating the terms of a county body. So I don't know if that state law setting a 3-year term allows for holdovers, because it's not purely a term that's set by city and county law.
I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. It's kind of in lieu of any holdovers, they built in expiration dates and limitations of service, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that I'm not sure that state law allows for holdovers. It says the term, California Welfare and Institutions Code said the terms will be 3 years, right? So it's setting the term, like for our body, right? The Sunshine Ordinance is a purely city ordinance, right? Our terms are set in a city ordinance that was passed by the voters. But the terms for this board are actually set in state law, right? So I don't know, because that term, and it even goes so far as to talk about how terms should be staggered. So I think there's some intent that these terms don't all expire at the same time, and that there should be some type of, appointment process that works on a rotating type basis. And so even though that this board is appointed by, and the number of members are determined by a city ordinance or something passed by the board, the fact that state law prescribes a specific end to the term limit, does that mean that if the board doesn't reappoint at the end of that term, that the people can continue serving? Or does that state law put a hard cap on it?
Well, I guess the question I have, I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn. Member Schmidt, go ahead.
Yeah, to Member Yankee's inquiry, he's wondering about, I'm not responding to the last thing you said, but before that, you were talking about how, well, if they don't have a proper quorum, then how could there have been a meeting, and therefore how could there be violations? Maybe I hope I'm paraphrasing that somewhat fairly. I guess the way I'm thinking about this whole issue about, okay, maybe they didn't have a proper quorum, et cetera, is that if you have a meeting and you don't have a proper quorum, then that invalidates anything that you do in the meeting. But I think that if violations occurred during that meeting, that it's not like you can take away your sunshine violations by saying, oh, but actually we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't commit any other violations. That's my thought on your inquiry, that if they took actions, then and they didn't have quorum, then the actions themselves are invalid. But that's a separate issue from, did they commit Brown Act type violations? So that's just to get to what you were kind of querying about.
Right. I understand what you're saying, and I wasn't saying that there would be no violation. I think there would be a violation. It would be continuing the meeting beyond. I think when there's not quorum, you can only do roll call, an adjournment, right? You can't take actions, right? So I think there would definitely be potential violations, but they would be that the meeting continued beyond the roll call where they found, and then they didn't adjourn, right? So I'm not sure that the violations we're looking at are the right violations. I think the violations would be that they conducted a meeting without quorum. There definitely could potentially be a violation if they went, but just wouldn't be, like, for instance, I saw some of them were talking about public comment. Well, right, there should never be a discussion item if there is no quorum. So whether or not they allowed public comment or didn't allow public comment, it's kind of a moot point if we decided that at the offset, the meeting should have never occurred beyond, a quorum not being established. And that would be the violation I would find, that the quorum wasn't established, assuming that that's true. And I'm not saying that it is. That's why I asked legal counsel.
Although, can you find a provision of what we're dealing with that is violated? I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what in the Brown Act, the Records Act, Sunshine, where do we see something that says, oh, this is violated when you stop having quorum? And if we can find it, great. I just want to see what that is. I don't know if there is one.
Okay, so Member Highland, did you have your hand up? And Member Stein?
Yes, I did. Member Highland here. I think the way this is going, and based on my past experience, it might be useful to bifurcate this. In other words, have two motions proposed, if we are going to find violations. One on the parts of the charter that we're familiar with and comfortable with, the noticing, the agenda, all that kind of stuff. and then have a separate motion on quorum violations. That way they stand alone. I think that's probably a healthy way to progress. We're at the 1.5 hour mark right now. I would invite someone to start with maybe violations of agenda and documents. Start with that one, and then have a separate motion on the quorum. That would be my advice at this point.
I believe you're muted, Chair Wolf.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Member Stein, do you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I'll just say briefly that, I personally wasn't convinced about not taking public comment, because public comment is mentioned throughout their agendas. And I think there's also many boards that don't specifically mention it with each item, but it's still taken with each item. And so I didn't have convincing evidence that there wasn't space for public comment at the meetings, but I do feel like there's admission on certain points that also seem to clearly have documentation. And most of those things are things that occurred prior to the meeting anyway, which I already kind of went through, such as how the meeting was described and whether things were made public and whether sunshine notice was there. So I still feel like those violations, I'm comfortable with those violations being moved.
Would you like to take a stab?
Okay, I'll take a stab. So
before you do, I just want to notate something, because there's some other sections of the 5604 law that Mr. Hillier brought up that I think that also the respondent had, that this is a 17-member commission. Can Mr. Greer, can you confirm that? That's star 6.
I don't know if they heard. Shit, I don't know if they heard me. Oh, excuse me. Hello? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. All right. I was saying that. Pardon?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to answer that. Yes, at full capacity, the board should be operating with 17-member membership. I think the first 11 seats are supervisory appointees. The next 5 are rules seats, and then we have 1 supervisor seat.
Okay.
And then each one of those seats are broken down by category.
I understand that. I would urge you to read the Welfare Institutions Code 5604 A1.
I've got it in front of me. Got it right here.
It specifies that it should be no more than 15. That's not in our jurisdiction per se, but if you're claiming that there's 17 and then you're counting quorum against 17, that brings up an interesting question.
Right, and I have
Actually,
to look
Chair
at our bylaws. Our bylaws state 17, and there's another document somewhere that it says 17. This is the first time I've ever seen 15. Thank you for pointing it out.
I think I heard DCA Castillo.
Sorry, Chair Wolf. 5604, that same section A1, the last sentence says this section does not limit the ability of the governing body to increase the number of members above 15.
Above, I see. Okay, I see that now. Above
Okay.
15.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Sure.
that. Okay, no problem. Thank you. So then the first consideration is the body a local agency? And thus, is it then need to be compliant under the Brown Act? Thus, the Sunshine Ordinance. I think we're kind of clear on that. And then the question is around the holdover issue with regards to what Vice Chair Yankee brought up in 5604C. That the term of each member shall be 3 years, and they should be staggered, where 1/3 is staggered, every year. So there's a limit on, it doesn't necessarily speak to holdovers, but because there's an expiration of term, it means that there actually can't be a holdover. It means it just is a vacancy. I think that's the way it's kind of supposed to work. So I don't know how applicable that is for our purposes at this point, but I think it was worth mentioning. So, okay, Member Stein.
I'd like to comment on that.
In what fashion? What I'll allow it if you think that it would help us come to some.
Yeah, if something's moving around in the background, I'll try to talk over it.
Okay.
Well, in that point, 5604C, the term of each member of the board shall be for 3 years. The governing body shall equally be staggered, and so the approximately 1/3 appointment expired in each year. We had a situation where legislation had to be written in. We previously did not have staggered expiration dates. You know, as commissioners termed out, they were traditionally replaced. It wasn't an issue. Supervisors generally replaced. For some reason, over the past year, past couple of years, and I'd have to go back and historically, it looked as though the commissioners, they did begin to term out at the same time, and then there was legislation put in place to enact this staggered process. But in order to enact this staggered process, some people were going to lose time, some people were going to gain time in order for it to come into effect. So those people that lost time consequently became holdovers. And so anyway, I'm just trying to point that little aspect out, that there was once again a transitional year.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I think this doesn't allow for a holdover. That it says the appointment expires. So if the appointment expires, then the seat is vacant. The question then becomes, is there a section of law elsewhere in the state that speaks to this particular kind of body, or does the holdover rule apply locally? And I think we've already been down that road as to whether it's part of the executive branch or the legislative branch, and whether the legislative branch has a holdover. It applies to this body with regards to holdovers. I'm not going to continue to adjudicate that at this time because of time. So let's go back to Member Stein. You wanted to take a stab at a motion.
Except for, does Member Schmidt still have his hand up?
Oh, Member Schmidt.
Sorry. Forgot to take it down again.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Member Stein.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I rebut?
I did take Mr. Greer out of context. I'll just give you a minute to rebut. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. It won't even take that long. Section 15.13 of the San Francisco Administrative Code, Subdivision A, states as follows, and I quote, "Except for the Board of Supervisors member, the term of each member of the Behavioral Health Commission, parentheses, commission, shall be 3 years, period, ... And it goes on. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Member Stein, go ahead.
So Member Stein. So, based on the evidence that I saw, I felt that there were 4 points that seemed most convincingly to have been violated, and that was 67.7A for failing to describe the agenda items well, that piece of it. 67.7B, which relates to the same thing, posting these relevant descriptions online. 67.7G, failing to include notices of rights under the Sunshine Ordinance. And 67.9, failing to post supplementary documents, again, on the internet. And so I would move to find a violation of these 4 sections.
Just clarification before I ask for a second, was that 67.7A, B, D as in David, or G as in George?
67.7 A and B. And then
what?
G. And then
G as in,
67, yeah, G as in girl, B as in boy,
okay.
A as in apple, and then 67.9 A as in apple.
9A, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by member Stein, second by member Schmidt. I wanted to notate that the timestamp for posting an agenda is not specific about what goes on the internet. It's specific as to when it's posted in general. If you read 67, where is it? It's 67.7A. It talks about at least 72 hours before regular meeting, policy body shall post an agenda containing meaningful description. Each item of business be transacted or discussed at the meeting. Agenda shall specify for each item of business proposed action statement, blah, blah, blah. In addition, policy body shall post the current agenda on its internet site. Now, before the internet got created, these got posted at the meeting room. That's where it's supposed to be posted. That's the official posting. The internet is in addition, and the ordinance had not been I don't believe was updated since its inception for it to be meaning anything else.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think that I saw evidence that it wasn't posted elsewhere, and they certainly said that they sent out emails to everyone on their list more than 72 hours in advance, and there's pretty ample evidence of at least a week or more beforehand trying to get that agenda posted. So I just wasn't convinced that they didn't make a reasonable effort to get the agenda out.
But I think you mentioned something about a difference between 56 hours and 72 hours.
Well, that's
right?
when it finally went up 56 hours in advance on the example I'm looking at, but they submitted that agenda to go up like more than a week before more than a week before the meeting, or somewhere around a week before the meeting. I mean, there was plenty of time. It should have gone up, and they made a good faith effort to submit it in time.
I understand that, but that's not the point of the posting, the 72-hour period. The
but
point is,
was it not also during the pandemic and all kinds of things were happening?
yeah, but this is to benefit the public, not to benefit the body that's trying to have a public meeting. If anybody posted an agenda less than 72 hours and the public was unable to have adequate access to be able to have that, we would consider it a violation at any time. So whether if the body was monitoring when the posting was going up, and if whoever they assigned to post it didn't post it up in time, then the meeting can't happen. If that happened to the Board of Supervisors, they'd be held to pay.
Well, in any case, it might be we see it differently, and maybe I'm wrong. It doesn't actually affect my motion because my motion still says a violation of 67.7A, and both clauses are included in that.
I understand, but we're not just making, I mean, we've been kind of scolded many times about making, taking actions and just citing sections without applicable, what exactly is the violation? So, you know, I'm stating if we're going to do 67A, then I'm going to, your portion of for 67A is it's based upon the description, not on the time.
For somebody else, it could be based on the 72 hours in advance. It's still a violation.
But that's been a big problem of ours, is that when we send it for monitoring, it's what are they monitoring for? Are they monitoring for description, or are they monitoring it for timeliness of the posting? There are two aspects to this particular paragraph.
So are you saying you want me to say that they failed on both?
Well, if you don't agree with that, then that's fine. I'll make a subsequent motion, moving forward. You're the maker. I mean, I could certainly interject by making an amendment, but I'm not gonna. We spent a lot of time on this already. Right. But I'm just noting as part of the, whether that might be another compelling point. I mean, yes, the commission may have made a full faith effort to, whether it was a week before or 3 weeks before, but if the people that were responsible to put it up online on their behalf, at their direction, didn't do it in time, then it's a responsibility of the body as to whether they can actually have the meeting or not, because they didn't allow the public, provide the public with proper notice.
Right. I'm just going to say, given COVID and everything else, I'm not fully comfortable with that. So I'm going to leave my thing the way it is, and you can do an addendum if you want.
Member Stein, Member Stein, I just want you to clarify for me what your motion is. It's 67.7A for failing to describe agenda items, 67.7B, and what was that?
Oh, I mean, I was telling you my rationale. I mean, I'm very comfortable just saying violation of 67.7A, 67.7B, 67.7G, and 67.9A. I was telling you my own rationale for why I chose those.
I understand, but what we have to do is name what the violation is, because 67A is there are two aspects to it. One is the 72-hour posting, and the second aspect is meaningful description.
Okay. Well, I see it as for failure to describe agenda items.
Okay.
Adequately.
And then B?
Failing to post docs or documents for the public online or to make them available.
And G?
Failing to include notices of rights under the Sunshine Ordinance.
And 67.9.
In this case, for failing to post supplementary documents needed for the meeting on the internet.
Second agrees.
Ms. Leger, did you get all of that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I have to say, I have a new computer, and so the keyboard is like, I'm not used to it.
Thank you. I thought I saw Member Highland's hand up. Is there something you wanted to say?
No.
I guess that was a no. Okay. Let's open for public comment. And we have somebody's phone or microphone that's making a lot of noise. Okay. Please wait for Ms. Leger if you wish to make public comment. This is public comment for members of the public other than parties.
Sullivan.
Can you hear me now?
Ms. Leger, are you there?
Yeah. Hello, do we have a second public commenter?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you speaker number 2?
No, I'm sorry. It's David Pilpel. I have no comment on this item. Can you just tell me what item number we're on? That's all.
Well, we combined item number 7 and 8.
Excellent. Keep up the good work. I'll keep tuning in. Thanks.
So it looks like Mr. Sullivan is our only public commenter. Mr. Sullivan, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, to address a few things. Section 15.13 of San Francisco Administrative Code on Behavioral Health Commissions, terms of removal. B, no member shall serve more than 2 consecutive full terms. So if each full term is 3 years, then that's 6. The next sentence says, a member shall be deemed to serve a full term only if the member serves at least half of the full term. So about 7.5 years is the most any commission a member could serve, and can't be a holdover. It all depends on when they start. As far as I agree with Chairman Wolf as far as the policy body being 67.3D, D3. So if you guys go with the federal, it also works with 7 because there's an or between local grant who's member. So it's an advisory board, commission, committee, or council created by a federal, state, and then there's another or local, or local grant. The local grant has nothing to do with this. So if it's federal or state, it's fine. Also, the Brown Act 54952, legislative body means governing body of a local agency or any other local body created by state or federal statute. And as far as quorums are concerned, that's all in the definition of meeting, either in the Sunshine Ordinance or in the Brown Act. And instead of using quorum, they use a congregation of a majority of members of a policy body at the same time and place, or majority. They use majority a lot in defining the quorum of commissions or any type of meeting in both the Brown Act and the Sunshine Ordinance. Okay, thank you for your time.
Hello. Wishing to make public comment.
Please wait for Ms. Leger.
Thank you.
Are you speaker number 2?
I guess I will be. The name is tell me when to go or whatever I need to do.
All right. You may begin.
Thank you. This is Stephen Banuelos. I'm currently a commissioner on the Mental Health Commission. I'm sorry, Behavioral Health Commission, though I wasn't at the time that the issues being discussed were going on. I've only been on the commission since early 2021, and we're talking about issues related to the summer of 2020, when, as has been said before, there was many issues going on, lack of staff, whatnot. So I did want to point out that whatever gets found, please bear in mind that as of late last year and into this year, under current or new legislation, the behavioral health, not commission, I'm sorry, the Department of Behavioral Health Services is now responsible. So, whatever decisions you may make are in a certain sense pertaining to a body that is different than currently. And under current legislation recently passed by the BOS, it would be Department of Public Health, Behavioral Health Services section that would be responsible for implementing anything that you would hope would be going forward. And that includes the time of appointments. That specific legislation which passed late last year does specify, myself, for example, people being, their terms terming out every few years on a schedule. So keep that in mind when you make these decisions, because there will be further issues that will be discussed. Because I know Mr. Hillier has maybe another couple of hundred issues that he's filed with the commission that we will be discussing at some point, but I believe they're from 2021. And like he likes to say during every meeting, that the meeting is happening.
30 seconds.
Okay. Anyway, I'd just like to say, at every meeting, Mr. Hillier will quote something, and I don't know the law because I'm not a lawyer, but he says that this meeting is happening against the Brown Act and Sunshine Act. So I suspect he's going to have that mentality no matter what. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Can I make public comment? No, I can't. I'm the administrator. No, never mind.
Party. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Hearing no public comment, folks, are we ready for a vote? Okay, please call the roll. Hearing no objection.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member Forsley, not present. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Highland?
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member LaHood?
Aye.
Member LaHood, aye. Vice Chair Yankee?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yankee, aye. Chair Wolf?
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Moved by Member Stein, second by Member Schmidt. To find a violation of 67.7A for failing to post the agenda 72 hours in advance and failure to describe the agenda items. 67.7B as in boy, failing to post records online and or make them available. 67.7G as in George, failing to include notices. Failing to include notices of rife on the agenda. Is that what you said, Member Stein? You're on. You muted.
Hi. Sorry. I have to go back to my notes. 67, which was the last one you said?
Failing to include notice is 67.7G.
Notice of people's rights under the Sunshine Ordinance.
Failing to post notice of people's rights on the agenda. 67.9A, failing to post supplementary documents for the meeting on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The motion is approved. I'd like to propose a motion to continue this item for the membership and the validity of the with regards to whether this is under the Sunshine Ordinance under 67.3 D3 as to get a little more information as to under behavioral the welfare and institutions codes 5602 and 5604. Mr. Hillier did file a complaint with regards to these. I don't think we have come to an adequate solution. So I'd like to leave the file open to allow us to get some additional information and to continue this to the call of the chair. So I'm making that motion. Vice Chair Yankee.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to interject before you started.
I'm sorry.
Did Member Stein's motion contain the violation for the posting on the agenda? Because I thought she wasn't comfortable with that, but I thought I heard Clerk Leger read that back.
No, it was not. She did. She was only for the description.
Cheryl, did you include the 72 hours? I'm pretty sure you just read that back when I heard you rereading the motion. Cheryl, you're on mute.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. That was 67.7A for failing to post the agenda 72 hours in advance.
I believe Stein did not want that included, so that's I want to be very clear what her motion was.
All right, so we don't want 67A in there?
No. She said 67A, but not that portion of 67A.
It's for not providing an adequate description on the agenda. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you for flagging that. So I have made a motion. Is there a second? If anybody needs it repeated, I will.
This is Vice Chair Yankee. I will second that.
Okay. So
right.
motion is to continue the item at the call of the chair to review the status of this body as to whether it falls under the Sunshine Ordinance as described in section 67.3. Lost my place here. 67.3 D3.
What about the Welfare and Institutions Code?
Well, that'll be part of the review, but that's not within our jurisdiction. It only will help define. It would need to be reviewed to define whether it is under jurisdiction.
This is Victor Young. I just wanted to maybe simplify as we want to determine if members can sit as holdovers. Is that one of the main questions?
That is one of the main questions. Yes. There's also the issue of whether there was a quorum present.
Bruce, I need you to repeat your motion. Continue the item to the call of chair, and the status. That's it, or just continue to the call of the chair?
No, continue to the call of the chair to review the status of the Behavioral Health Commission as to whether it falls under the jurisdiction of the Sunshine Ordinance under section 67.3 D3. And to further review whether the holdover provisions apply.
And who do we have a second on that?
Vice Chair Yankee.
Chair Wolf, this is Victor Young again. Can I assume that you're asking the Deputy City Attorney to provide a report on this or to provide advice?
I think that would be a good idea. I probably would confer with our legal counsel on that. So yes. And considering her participation today.
All right, do we want to take public comment on this?
Yes. Any public comment on the motion to continue? Last call for public comment. Okay, hearing none. Public comment is closed. Are we ready for a vote? Please call the roll.
Chair Wolf?
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Vice Chair Yankee?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yankee, aye. Member Forsley, absent. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Highland?
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member LaHood?
Aye.
Member LaHood, aye. Moved by Chair Wolf, second by Vice Chair Yankee to continue the item to the call of the chair to review the status of the Behavioral Health Commission as to whether it falls under the jurisdiction under the ordinance under 67.3 D as in dog, and to further review the holder provisions, that the holder provisions apply.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
Yes.
I actually do think that the agenda issue is important to address. So I do want to make a separate motion because piggybacking on Member Stein's motion, not including that, I did want to move to find violation of 67.7 subsection A for the Behavioral Health Commission not posting an agenda at least 72 hours before a meeting.
I'll second it. Chair Wolf.
Do we want public comment on this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any public comment?
Can I make public comment?
One moment. Wait for Ms. Leger.
Thank
Are you speaker number 2, you, Mr. Benuelos?
you. Yeah, I'm speaker number 2.
I'm speaker number 3, Patrick.
Do we have other public commenters? Okay, I guess we don't. We will start with speaker number 3. Or 2, rather.
Is that me, Stephen Banuelos?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, sir.
Oh, just real quickly, I thought I heard Jeffrey Greer say that he presented evidence that the agenda was put out 72 hours ahead of time. So I'm not quite clear. I mean, are we looking at believing one source and not another? Anyway, that's what it sounds like to me. Thank you.
Patrick, are you ready to proceed?
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
Because of my hearing loss, I'm not sure who just made this motion. I have the impression it was Victor Young. Is that correct?
No, that was Master Yankee.
Oh, okay. I commend him for bringing this motion forward, and I support it. Thanks.
Any other speakers? Last call for public comment. Okay, public comment is closed. Are we ready for a vote? Any objections? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vice Chair Yankee?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yankee, aye. Member, Chair Wolf?
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Member Forsley, absent. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Highland?
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Stein?
Nay.
Member Stein's a no.
Yeah, no.
Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member LaHood?
Aye.
Member LaHood, aye. Moved by Member Yankee, Vice Chair Yankee, seconded by Chair Wolf. Moved that Administrative Code 67.7A for the Behavioral Health Commission not posting agenda items, the agenda 72 hours before a meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. I just want to check in members. Just want to check in members. We have 1, 2, 3 items for hearings. Do you want to take a break or forge ahead? Or do you want to take a break after the next item?
I'd say 10-minute break now.
Okay.
I'd second that.
Okay. So, are there any objections to taking a recess now? Or, okay. Let's do that. 10 minutes. It is 8. Let's say it's 8:20, coming on 8:22. So,
Chair Wolf,
who's speaking?
it's David Pilpel. Can you
Yes.
just be a little more clear on what's upcoming and what your plan is for the rest of the evening before you take the break?
Sure. So it's items number 9, file number 20093, files number 10, 20120, 11, 20011. Item number 12 has been continued. Item 13, which is a report on state bills. And then item number 14 is a review of, I guess, amendments of draft complaint form. There's a chair's report with a system-wide advisory draft and a short report after that, and then the administrator's report, announcements and comments, so on and so forth is the next item, and then adjournment.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm interested in 13 and thereafter, so I'll check back in a couple hours.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
So the Winship and Behavioral Health Commission are over with.
Yes.
We're done.
You're done,
well,
but
until you call us back. Until you
Correct.
call us again.
Correct.
Will that be coming? Is there a timeline on that?
It all depends upon how quickly you can get the information back. We meet monthly, and it all depends upon how many cases we have in the pipeline. So it may not. It could be November. It may not be November. It may not be December. We're pretty backlogged.
Oh, don't worry. There's a whole pile coming, so I'll see you again.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Pierce.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. So it is now coming on 8:24. We'll return back here at 8:34, and we are in recess. Please mute your microphones and turn off your videos. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Leger, are you there? Victor, are you available? Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
There looks like somebody is logged into the system. There's no name. Do you see that?
Is that me? I'm calling in, ending in 4107. Is the phone?
Nope.
Helen,
Give me a
Cynthia,
moment.
sorry.
There's a kind of a blank.
I see the phone numbers, I see anonymous, and then I see the members.
So I'm looking at the top. At least for me, it has me first, and then there's just a blank entry. And
I'm
then
not
I have.
seeing that.
You don't see that? Okay.
I see one that says guest.
Where's
Yeah,
back?
it
What do you
Though I'm using a web browser, not using the Teams app, so it may look different for me. I didn't see that before, so. All right, are we ready? Ms. Leger, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Just-
then let's start the recording and.
I didn't stop the recording.
Oh, okay. So then let's come back into session. If you can call the roll, just make sure that we still have quorum.
Chair Wolf,
Present.
Chair Wolf present. Member Forsley, not present. Member Neighbors,
Present.
Member Neighbors present. Member Highland,
Present.
Member Highland present. Vice Chair Yankee,
Present.
Vice Chair Yankee present. Member Stein,
Present.
Member Stein present. Member Wong,
Present.
Member Wong present. Member Padmanabhan,
Present.
Member Padmanabhan present. Member LaHood,
Present.
Member LaHood present. Member Schmidt,
Present.
Schmidt present. We have a quorum. Chair Will, shall I read item number 9?
Chair Wolf, you're muted.
Yes, please call the next item. Thank you. Sorry
Item
about
number 9, file number 20093, complaint filed by Carl Kramer against the Department of Public Works for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a records request in a timely and or complete manner. On April 20, 2021, the complaint committee found that the task force has jurisdiction, the records are public, and referred the matter to the task force with a recommendation to find violations for timeliness and withholding. On June 2nd, 2021, the task force recommended that the matter be continued pending an exchange of records between the parties and referred the matter to the Compliance and Amendments Committee for monitoring. On July 27, the Compliance and Amendments Committee referred the matter back to the task force because there was an exchange of records between the parties, but not to the satisfaction of the complainant.
Okay, Member LaHood?
Yes, Chair Wolf. So we heard this in compliance and amendments, and there was an exchange of documents, but Mr. Kramer wasn't satisfied, and we determined in the hearing that there was enough information that there was a possible violation for at minimum timeliness, and Department of Public Works admitted that when they received the initial communication from Mr. Kramer, they had not interpreted it as a sunshine request. And we thought there's enough there for the task force to consider this. So that's why we're here today.
Okay. So this was returned to compliance and amendments for monitoring.
No, there was not an order of determination. It went to us because Mr. Kramer had said that if he received the documents, he might be satisfied and would drop the complaint, but he received the documents and was not satisfied.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so where are we picking this up in our meeting here? We're picking it up after rebuttals. Or is this a first time?
I do not know.
Recommended the matter to be continued. So I don't recall where in the meeting that we continued this. I guess it probably was after rebuttals. So we're not going through our whole process at this point. Okay. This was April, June. Okay, apologies, just a second, folks. Four, 5, 6, 7.
And Chair Wolf, to clarify too, the potential agreement to drop was based on receiving 2021 figures, which were not part of the original request. So this was sort of deal making that was happening and the deal fell through.
Okay, so according to the minutes for that day, this is on the June 2nd, 2021 meeting. The petitioner provided a summary. The Department of Public Works, Mr. Steinberg, respondent, provided a summary. And I don't think we got to rebuttals. So we were it was just a matter of not having enough information at that point. So let's pick this up after the opening testimonies, and we're now in Q&A clarification. And now we need to confirm whether the records have been delivered or not to Mr. Kramer's satisfaction. Okay, Mr. Kramer, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, and representative from DPW?
Yeah. It takes a minute to unmute. But I don't believe it ever came to the full task force. It's been before 2 committees, but not the full task force.
No, it's in the minutes of the full task force of June 2nd, 2021. And then it was referred to the Compliance and Amendments Committee for monitoring. That meeting was held on July 27th, and now the Compliance and Amendments Committee has made a determination and making a recommendation back to the task force. We have documentation to show this chronology.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Okay, so Mr. Kramer.
Yes, I mean.
Okay, has there, it supposedly that there was an exchange of records? All right, there's some background noise. Can people please mute by pressing *6? Thank you. Ms. Kramer, was there an exchange of records?
There was.
Okay. Was it to your satisfaction?
No.
What's missing?
Well, as you know, the complaint was for from 2020, and what I had said to David was that since this was a request from a previous fiscal year, that if we could get the information for this current fiscal year, that I'd be willing to withdraw the complaint. And after my offer was premised on that the department would demonstrate that it was transparent. But after further back and forth emails, I found that the responses from Devin McCullough were oblique and did not directly answer my questions. In one of his final emails on June 15th, which you could see on page 535, David suggested that I communicate directly with Devin McCullough, whom he copied on that email, but I never heard from Devin. So I just find and I'm not blaming David. I mean, he's just acting as the intermediary, but I'm finding that, the department's budget department, the budget committee, their attitude towards the public on budget matters is opaque, and I decided that they should not be rewarded by my withdrawing the complaint.
Okay, thank you. Does that flow, Member LaHood, does that flow with your finding in committee?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so what's the recommendation from committee? Was there any?
We returned it back because, as I said, Mr. Kramer had said that he would consider dropping it if he received the new figures, but because he wasn't satisfied, he was rescinding the offer to drop the initial complaint, and we found that there appeared to be enough evidence for not responding in a timely manner, because, and DPW had even said they did not, they said they did not interpret his initial message as a request for documents. But if you read it closely, you can see that there is a request contained in his letter.
Okay, members, any questions, further questions for either of the parties?
Sure, Will.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask my fellow Compliance and Amendment Committee members, was there anything that I missed there, or?
Yep, covered it.
Okay, shall we move to rebuttals? Okay, let's do that. Okay, respondent, DPW, you're first. You have 3 minutes. Please wait for Ms. Leger.
The first speaker is Mr. Steinberg. Is the respondent available?
Just give him a minute.
Yeah, whenever, just go ahead and give me a signal,
Okay.
Cheryl.
Okay, hang on a second.
The system is slow to unmute, folks, so gotta wait a moment.
Are you ready, David?
I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So Chair Wolf and members of the task force, again, my name is David Steinberg. I'm custodian of records for San Francisco Public Works. First, I need to point out that the notes in the agenda and complaint committee minutes actually were incorrect. Member LaHood is correct. The complaint committee's original recommendation was for a violation of timeliness, but not withholding. Because the committee agreed with Public Works, we fulfilled our obligations to produce the records. I'll just focus on the issue of timeliness. As Member LaHood pointed out, the subject of the deal was to get the subsequent year's documents. Those were not the subject of the original request. We gave him, Mr. Kramer, all the records in the original request. So let me explain why I disagree with the committee's recommendation that we be found to violate timeliness. So in his testimony and submissions of the task force and its committees, Mr. Kramer has repeatedly framed the group's correspondence as a campaign to educate departments. And that's exactly how his initial email to our director of finance is viewed, rather than as a records request. And we all know that you don't have to use specific words or use a form or use an X request to make a sunshine request, but there is a point at which a records request needs to clearly indicate that a record is actually being requested. We believe the communications from the Living Wage Coalition failed that test, especially given the fact that multiple departments received similar communications, and he has filed complaints against all of them because none of those departments apparently recognize them as requests for documents. So we weren't alone. As Member Highland pointed out at a recent EOTC hearing, the group really needs to make it clear that they're requesting a specific document, or even that the letter is a records request at all. So the first time I was made aware of the letter from Mr. Kramer that's the subject of the complaint was July 23rd, 2020, when Cheryl notified me that a complaint had been submitted to the task force. That same day, I contacted Mr. Kramer asking how he had submitted the request, and he provided a copy of his letter, which he had sent to Julia Dawson, who was then our Deputy Director of Administration and Finance. I contacted Ms. Dawson. She confirmed she'd received the letter. She told me she forwarded it to our budget director because it didn't sound like a records request. She wrote, "I read this as an advocacy message telling us what amounts we should be budgeting for various services and asking for us to confirm that we've done so. The group has sent similar messages every year, and I don't remember them ever being considered public records requests." Mr. Kramer said he also sent it to our general DVW email account, but I can't find any evidence of that. And I asked our staff to look into that. I also asked our director and his secretary if they received it. None of them had. As soon as I did find out about it, I contacted Mr. Kramer the same day, and we acknowledged it. So, not to make light of deadlines. I mean, I was an editor for 30 years, but if we properly received the request on June 11th, we would have had until June 21st, plus the 14-day extension to respond. We actually responded to him on the 23rd, even though I had no notice. I didn't realize that there had been a request. The same day that Cheryl notified me, I got in contact with him, and we acknowledged it, and we gave him all the documents that he was looking for. So I would ask that there not be a violation for timeliness on this issue. Thank you. I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. And now 3 minutes for the petitioner, Mr. Kramer. Please wait for Ms. Leger.
Mr. Kramer, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, thanks, Cheryl. Yes, the initial request was sent on June 11th, as you can see on page 469, and that when he refers to this being a educational campaign, yes, there have been emails sent since 2019 informing the department that according to the ordinance that in 2021 they would need to start providing a written confirmation that's required under the ordinance. And in fact, we got the city controller's office to also send out a memo to departments saying that starting 2021, it would no longer be their responsibility to do calculations on what the effects of MCO wage increase would be on their budget, that they needed to provide that information. The complaint was filed, and there were also follow-up phone calls and voicemails that were left, and we didn't hear back from the department. The complaint was filed on July 23rd, which was 42 days after the initial information request. We did not receive any documents from David Steinberg. In fact, you could look at, as you can see on page 474, the response was, that they didn't interpret the email as a public records request, even though in the subject head it said information request. He further wrote that they don't have to create a response to an information request or a series of questions, and that's not a public records request. And it should resubmit the request more clearly identifying the record. On page 473, you can see that he sent a follow-up email on July 27th with an attachment that had budget figures for fiscal year 2019, and said that it's his understanding the Controller's Office increased the funding, and the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement monitors compliance. Page 472, you can see I responded on July 27th that the request was for a document required by the Minimum Compensation Ordinance, so that's an identifiable record. I further wrote that the Controller's Office had written a memo on November 5th, 2019, that it no longer was their responsibility to calculate the cost of MCO increases, and that starting in fiscal year 2021, it'd be the responsibility of departments. I also wrote that this
Your
was
time is up, sir.
What's that?
Your time is up.
Oh, okay.
Let him finish his thought. Go ahead. Finish the sentence, please.
So I would say on that on page 490, if you look at page 490, it was August 20th, 2020, that David sent an email that the budget team finally did find a document, which would have been a budget submission checklist that would have been submitted to the mayor's budget office back in February. So it was after this back and forth email exchanges about how they don't have to create a document to meet our request, and it was months later that they finally found the document.
Okay, thank you. All right, members, the matter is with you. All right, I'll start the ball rolling. On page 470, third paragraph, we are requesting the written confirmation that the department took these costs into consideration and the amount that the department allocated to nonprofits for these costs. There's the request. And I'm not convinced of the rationale that based upon what Mr. Kramer had reported, I didn't quite get confirmation of that, but from the respondent, but the subject line says information request. And if he was being, if the response was, it's an information request, it's not a records request, is a little, that's splitting hairs. I mean, the Freedom of Information Act, it's a FOIA request, essentially. It's information or records, it's all the same thing. The ordinance speaks about information. I just think that that's not good. Also, I'm having a little problem, and we'll get to this towards the end of the meeting, because we're going to submit send out a system-wide advisory around timeliness, and I'll just state right now. I'll repeat it later too. That where did I put it? That this notion and interpretation of the ordinance that a respondent has 10 days to respond and then gets to extend to another 14 days is incorrect. It's not even part and parcel to the California Public Records Act. The Records Act doesn't even spell it out that way. It's a maximum of 14 days. You're supposed to respond in 10 days, and if you need an extension, the extension is to 14 days, not 10 days to respond and then an additional 14 days. That is incorrect. I don't care what the Good Government Guide says, because that has not been fixed, and it's not been reviewed, and we have not been asked for assistance on various interpretations. So that is incorrect, and people have to stop doing that. Okay, I'll stop there. Member Neighbors.
I agree completely with you, Chair Wolf, and I think on the grounds of what we've identified as a subject line that clearly states that this is an information request, paragraph on P470 that begins, we are requesting written confirmation, and our shared understanding that under the Sunshine Ordinance, requesters can request public information. They do not have to request strictly records. That I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we find the Department of Public Works and Mr. Steinberg in violation of 6721 for failing to respond to a records request in a timely and or complete manner.
Which paragraph?
Which paragraph of the ordinance?
Yeah, 6721 is a number of subparagraphs. I don't think they all are about timeliness.
Is it let's see. Anyone can help me out. I'd appreciate it. My computer keeps freezing.
It is 6721.
B.
Yeah, B is in Bravo.
Bravo.
721. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. This is Member LaHood.
Okay, and is there something we would like to, I would suggest, if there's something we want to compel the department to do we want them to deliver the documents? I mean,
well, at this point, I believe the documents from the original request have been delivered, but there is a violation because there was such a delay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We missed that part. Okay, so moved by Member LaHood. Member Vice Chair Yankee.
Yes, the motion I think was for Department of Public Works and Mr. Steinberg, but I wanted to point out that the email was actually sent to Ms. Julia Dawson in Public Works. So I'm not sure if David Steinberg's the correct named party, since the request was actually sent to Julia Dawson, not Mr. Steinberg.
Let's look. No, it should be whoever the complaint was. The complaint form says it's about. And it says the complaint is against the Department of Public Works. And the person named here is Alaric Degrafinred. Mr. Kramer, is that correct?
Yes, that's the director of the department.
Okay.
Former
is
director, actually, yes, at the time.
Former director.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the complaint is, and let's see what is our agenda say here. Yeah, so it's against the Public Works and this named person.
I didn't catch the name.
Alaric, Alaric, Degra, Egra, Finrid, Finried, and I probably trashed that in pronunciation.
Alaric de Graffenried. Yeah, actually.
De Graffenried. Okay. Finried. Okay. Thank you.
So are we amending the motion to that? I don't know if we need officially.
It absolutely needs to. Member Neighbors and Member LaHood.
I accept the amended motion.
Member Neighbors.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Great.
accept.
So Ms. Leger, the violations are against Alaric de Graffenried and the Graffenried and Department of Public Works.
Right. So that was member Vice Chair Yankee's amendment.
No, it's just a correction, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not an amendment.
Okay. Yeah, I got that.
Okay, so moved by Members Neighbors, second by Member Hood. Any other members? Any other discussion? Okay, public comment. Any public comment? Last call. Okay, public comment is closed. Are we ready for a vote? Hearing no objection, please call the roll.
Just a moment. Member Neighbors.
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member LaHood. Member LaHood.
Aye.
Member Forsley, not present. Member Highland.
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Stein.
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Wong.
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Padmanabhan.
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Vice Chair Yankee. Vice Chair Matthew.
Aye.
Vice Chair Yankee, aye. Chair Wolf.
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Moved by Member Neighbors, seconded by Member LaHood, that the task force finds the Department of Public Works and Alaric Degraffenried in violation of 6721B for not providing records in a complete and timely manner.
Okay, thank you. Please call next item.
Okay, just a second. Item number 10. Are we ready?
Yes, please call
Okay.
next item.
Yes. Item number 10, file number 20120, complaint filed by Alina Afuamongo against the police department for allegedly violating Administrative Code section 6721 by failing to respond to a records request in a complete and or timely manner. On May 18, 2021, the complaint committee found the task force has jurisdiction. The requested records are public and referred the matter to the task force for hearing.
Complaint committee, Chair Schmidt, or anything to add?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. The petitioner complainant, she wasn't there at the meeting, but apparently she said she does want to go forward with this. That's my understanding. Cheryl may know something different. It's pretty much a single document, which is she's trying to get a hold of a homicide report, and a homicide report appears to have been held up because of the medical examiner's portion that was supposed to be inserted into that report. I think that it was received approximately 2 to 3 months after the request. I think it was maybe in October to January. And the department stated that they needed to wait until they had the complete contents before they would disclose. The one thing that, other than, I think that's the facts, it is the kind of thing where she would receive it, but it's not something that would be made available to the general public. So it's one of those kind of documents that it's never a publicly open document. It's sort of like if someone asks for their own personnel records, their own medical records, and this is your own records of a family member involved in a crime. I think that's everything. Anything else, members of my committee? Member Stein.
No, I don't think I have anything to add to that.
Okay.
I have a question for you. Was there any citation with regards to that withholding, but kind of limited withholding?
There was a citation, I believe, that they have a policy, the police, that they cannot release, or that they can withhold incident reports until they receive a report from the coroner's office. Wasn't it that? And that there was therefore investigation. There was a ongoing investigation, and they were withholding the document until they received that coroner's report.
I think I was more referring to what Member Schmidt was saying, was that a person can ask, if they're a party to the incident, that they can ask for it, but it's not available to the general public. Is there some citational law around that?
Yeah. The statutes, the state statutes that are that govern CLETS information. I believe that this falls under that statutory scheme. So that's California law enforcement tracking system. And I think that's how the records like this are handled. Although I'm not 100% sure, because we had another CLETS case, so I may be confusing two cases.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll figure it out. Okay. Thank you. I just thought maybe there was something we could get a little more information on. Okay. Let's start our hearing. 5 minutes for each party, starting with the petitioner. Ms. Fuamongo, are you present? Ms. wait for the delay to unmute.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, this is Elena.
Okay, Elena, thank you for being here. And is there a representative from the police department?
Lieutenant Parra with the San Francisco Police Department.
I'm sorry, can you say your name a little slower again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Lieutenant Aaron Parra with the San Francisco Police Department.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Sure, it's P as in Paul, E-R-A.
Very good. Okay. Ms. Afua Mungo, please wait for our administrator, Ms. Leger, to start the clock. She'll tell you when to begin and when you have 30 seconds left before the end of that period. Thank you. Ms. Leger.
Elena, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You may begin.
I filed a police report online October 5th, 2020. Both written and verbal requests I submitted for the incident report number 200599990. And during that time, there was some back and forth with SFPD. On October 13th, 2020, SFPD responded to me that they received my request, but due to the quote, due to the nature of the report, must route to investigative unit for final release approval. I responded immediately, quote, what does the nature of the report mean? There's back and forth. Lieutenant Philpott called me on October 26, 2020, said he could not release the police report without an ME report because things might change. I asked Lieutenant Philpott how and why things would change, because I'm only asking for a police report, which is a public record. It's not the cause of death, not asking for the ME report. Lieutenant Philpott stated that it is, quote, policy and that he would not be able to release the incident report. That's when I filed a complaint against the SFPD with the Sunshine Task Ordinance Force on October 29, 2020 for not disclosing public records within a timely manner. And I also contacted Captain Michelle Jean and mailed physical letters requesting the police report, just back and forth requests on November 3rd, 2020. Then I received an email from SFPD Officer Harper, star number 1025 at the SFPD Richmond Station, where he wrote in summary, thank you for contacting Richmond Station. Sorry to hear for your loss. The medical examiner's office is currently in charge of this case. Unfortunately, the SFPD cannot release the report until they give us the okay. If you'd like to talk to the ME office, please call them. Sorry, I'm going through my timeline. November 5th, 2020, I'm receiving conflicting reports from SFPD and Lieutenant Philpott, who have insisted that there's currently no open investigation in the case. And also in rebuttal to what the police department is saying, nowhere did they say this was a homicide case. On November 9th, Giannina Miranda, who's the secretary to Captain David Falzone, gives me the unit policies and the policies procedures, and I read it. It's CISU, shoot, I forget what the number is, but nowhere in that policy does it state that it must be cleared, reviewed by the medical examiner's office before being released to the public or the person who's requesting the report. It only states that in number 8, that the investigative unit shall have the ultimate authority as to the final disposition of the police report. So which, to my understanding, was the police have full authority to release the report. From there, here's it's the Crime Information Services CISU Unit Order 20-18, which was sent to me from the SFPD. And like I said before, nowhere in there is any correlation between the medical examiner's office and the SFPD. And then I didn't receive the police report until probably 110 days later on January 21st, 2021. That's when I received the incident report. That I requested on October 5th, 2020. And that's all I have to say for now.
Okay, thank you. Are there any persons or witnesses to provide any facts or evidence on behalf of the petitioner or the complainant? Okay, hearing none, we'll now hear from the petitioner. Sergeant Para, you have 5 minutes. Please wait for Ms. Leger.
Okay.
Sergeant Para, you ready?
I'm ready. Okay. So first I want to apologize. I'm not going to refer to the complainant by name. I think I'm going to botch the name up. I don't want to be disrespectful. So I'm just going to refer to him as a complainant. So we were in receipt, the police department was in receipt of this complaint, alleging that we violated Administrative Code Section 67.21. We disagree with this, that we violated anything. We acknowledge that the request for the high sensitive incident report and provided responsive records once it was reasonable. Before releasing this sensitive report, it was a case, I think it was titled Death Report Cause Unknown. You know, we have to be vetted through both the homicide detail and the medical examiner. And there was mention who is the investigative unit. The investigative unit is the medical examiner's office. So they have to give the final say of what they determine the cause of death is before homicide may get involved or not get involved. So it's important that we get the clearance from them before we do any sort of releasing of this. So we're waiting for their approval. We received the request from the complainant, as she said, on the 6th of October in 2020. Got back to her on the 13th, basically just explaining that we were going to look into this. On the 6th, we got back to her again. It sounds like she'd reached out to the chief, and then there was follow-up by Acting Captain Dave Falzon regarding this incident. And he basically talked to her via phone and explained what the situation was. So then on the 9th, there was responded by email, a request from the complainant regarding the policies, which we gave her. On the 10th, we sent a letter to the complainant stating the investigator of the homicide detail denied the release of the incident report due to pending medical examiner's report. On the 16th, a homicide informs of the Crime Information Systems Unit that in an email that they couldn't release it. On the 18th, we gave another notice that that they were denying this. We've been continually giving updates on where we're at on this. The 10th, we gave our input to the Sunshine Ordinance. On the 24th, the homicide again informs CISU, that's the unit that issues the report via email, that the incident cannot be released because the medical examiner report is still pending. On the 25th of November, we provided an update again to the complainant via email and basically advised that the homicide has not yet received the medical examiner report. And on January 4th, 2021, we sent an email to criminal investigations or crime investigations, or the CISU, stating their family was in receipt of the medical examiner's report. And then on the 5th, homicide informed CISU that via email that their office had not received the medical examiner report. So they were going back and forth on that. But finally, we did release this report on January 21st, 2021. So they did get it. We were continually updating the complainant about what was going on with it. I'm sorry it took so long. This is not an ordinary case that we have to, this is a serious case. It wasn't a homicide, but it was a death case, cause unknown. I think when she started talking about what Lieutenant Philpott was talking about, part of it is that you need to get the clearance from medical examiner to be able to determine whether or not this could be something deemed other than just, what kind of death? Why did it happen? So I'm willing to take any questions if anybody has any right now.
We'll get there. Okay, all right. Is that the end of your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are any persons or witnesses provide any facts or evidence on behalf of the respondent? Okay, hearing none, members, Q&A time. All right, go ahead. Who wants to ask?
This is Elena.
Oh, Elena, you'll have to wait until the task force addresses one of the parties.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question for Sergeant Para. You refer to the CISU unit in kind of handling the paper shuffle here, and Elena had pointed out, I think it was a number referenced 20-18. I think that was it, or something to that effect. She claims that the policy does not require correlation with the ME as far as the release or the kind of the status of the incident report is concerned. You're claiming that the department can't release the report unless they have a clearance from the ME. Do you have any written policy, or can you reference a policy by number or a citation, a statute of some sort regarding that?
Well, the way I interpret it is that when they're talking about the agency that's responsible for it, or the unit that's responsible for it, it's a medical examiner's unit. That's my understanding on this. I mean, when you have a case like this, we wait for them to give the final say on what the cause of death is. So for example, if they said that there was foul play in this, then homicide would step in and do something. But the problem is that, if they don't know where this is going, I don't really know what the cause of. I don't know anything about this, what happened to it, but they release something. It could be evidence from the report that could be released to the general public. Could be a problem. They've given out evidence on a possible homicide, let's just say.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Elena, are you a party or a family member to this case?
Yes, I am a family member.
Okay, so Sergeant Para, I think what is made clear by Elena is that she was not seeking the ME report; she was seeking the incident report. I understand you're saying that if there was some result that came out of the ME report that might affect the incident report, okay, I understand that. But what I'm not hearing is, what is the policy of the police department with regards to this? I'm hearing from you that it's just some general practice or process, but the whole department runs on protocol and law on how these documents are handled. So it's important for us because the ordinance assumes that all records are public records and they should be released, and the requirement for withholding has to be specified by citation of law.
My understanding is that if it's an open investigation, then we wouldn't release it.
But under what law?
I don't have it in front of me. Is that the 62 That's open investigation is what it is. If we have a pending case, I can release, like this case here, we were talking about this one. If this was a closed, when it's a closed case, I can release it to anybody. But if it's open, it could jeopardize an investigation. So that investigation is everything when the officers got there. It talks all about everything that was found, who they talked to. This is all the evidence that's building into that's in this case. So
I hear
this
you.
case is, yes, okay, I'm sorry.
I hear you on that, but and I understand that there's a process for it, but we're talking about what there are certain guardrails and guidelines that basically control exactly what you're saying. I'm asking what they are because Elena did her homework here and was able to specify that the incident report can be released without the ME report that is independent of that. And if you're going to refute that, you're going to have to refute it by some citation of law. Otherwise, we're going to assume that it was if the investigation is closed, that it can be released with or without an ME report.
I'm not going to assume that.
Okay. But that I'm just kind of repeating what is being said here between the two. I'm trying to just get clarity.
Well, right now I'm reviewing that unit order, and I don't have all my codes on this, but we routinely use a section that if it's open investigation, and I've probably seen it yourself. I don't want to quote the wrong section, but if it's an open investigation, we can't release it. So I don't know the code offhand. I'm looking at this as I'm speaking, right? I'm looking at this as I'm talking to you right now, but it's going to take me a couple of seconds just to read through it and make sure I'm understanding. I don't want to speak out of term, but I just know from past practice that this is routinely done. We do not, you're not going to release a homicide case, No,
I get that. And we've had those citations, made to us about open investigatory cases under the evidence code or the penal code or what have you. But I'm just hearing what I'm hearing from the petitioner's claim. I'm trying to get corroboration on your side, and because I'm confused. So I'm trying to ask questions and get clarity.
Yeah.
Not based upon what I understand, based upon what's being presented here.
Well, it says here, number 8, anytime a report is routed to an investigative unit, that unit shall have the ultimate authority as to the final disposition of this police report release. So my understanding is that a report they didn't get from the medical examiner's office would not allow them to release it based on number 8.
Okay. Go ahead, Member Schmidt.
Yeah, just on that point, officer, would it ring a bell to you if I said that in your documents that you've submitted that are in our file, you cited Government Code Section 6254F?
That sounds like the right section to me. Yeah.
Okay. And that's which is my understanding that that's the basis for the delay in being able to produce that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, clarifications?
This is Member Wong.
Go ahead.
I have a question for the respondent. Lieutenant Parrott? Yeah. I'm kind of wondering also would it have been possible to release a portion of the incident report and redact pieces of it? I mean, just as an initial, response to the request.
No, that's you can't, anything could pop, if this turned into something, anything could possibly jeopardize the further investigation. But I know where you're going on that. I mean, depending on the severity of a report, yeah, we probably could do it. But something like this, the nature of it, we need a full approval. Really the approval comes from medical examiner and the homicide unit. You know, we really need them to say yes or no. And then we'll do a final vet of it, but we need their approval first.
Any other questions, clarifications? Okay, ready for rebuttals? Okay, I'm sorry, was it Lieutenant or Sergeant Para?
Oh, Lieutenant.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake before.
No, that's no problem. It's okay. No
Okay.
worries.
So Lieutenant Para, you are first on rebuttals. You have 3 minutes. Please wait for Ms. Leger.
Lieutenant Para, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Go ahead, sir.
So I guess just to wrap this up, I feel that we did respond back to the complainant. I'm sorry it took so long, but this is a case that there's many other agents or other units that are involved in this, and it's a serious case. And we ultimately did give the report. You know, I'm sorry to Elena that it took so long. I hope that she understands that, you know, part of this is making sure that we protect, you know, her family member on this, that if it did turn into something more, that we didn't do something that could jeopardize, you know, that investigation. So I think I am sorry for that. But anyway, that's all I really have to say.
Okay, I'll assume that ends your testimony. Okay, Elena, your turn. You have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Yeah, I'm still. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm still confused in terms of you know, what the policy says. From what I've received from the Crime Information Services CISU Unit Order 2018 that was sent over. Because again, there's no correlation that I see with the medical examiner's office to the police department in terms of the cause of death and the incident report. Those are two separate entities right there. And like I said before, I've already been in contact since the day my brother passed away, you know, since October 4th, 2020. And then it took over, you know, just back and forth between the ME office, you know, some confusion with the SFPD, police officers, not knowing that it was the report was within the homicide unit, and then receiving the report literally 100 days later. I'm still confused on how that correlates with any changes to what is going to be released in terms of the incident report. So yeah, I'm aware of what is being said about 6254 Section F to disclose the analysis or conclusions of an investigating offer. However, nothing in that division requires that the investigative files reflect any analysis or conclusions of the investigating officer. So I am still unaware of what that analysis or what that conclusion is from the investigating officers. There was no clarity on that between that timeline. Yeah, I'm still confused. Like, what evidence is this investigator convinced to, like, I think what this lieutenant is saying is under California Governor Code 6254 Section F, it says information that would endanger the successful completion of an investigation, but only when the prospect of enforcement proceeding is concrete and definite. Like, what is that evidence? I'm still unclear of that, and I'm still unclear about that policy. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Okay, members, I have one, I just want to, okay, Vice Chair Yankee, go ahead before.
Oh, okay, thanks. This is just a quick question to the respondent. Kind of came up, I was thinking of it as the rebuttals were going on. At what point did you cite 6254F to the complainant? I see it in the letter, I think it was November something to the task force. But I'm wondering if you gave that citation to the original requester of the record.
Well, it's, right, was that, are you done on speak? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
It looks like it was November 19th, 2020. They cited that. Let me think if there's any other. I'm just going off this. I wasn't there at the time when this was going down.
Okay.
So, but that's what I have. I don't know if it was cited more than once, but I do. That's one they have noted on my the draft for Sunshine.
Right. The earliest I found it was, I'm looking on page, that's page P637. And it was the response to the task force when it's cited in that letter. So just to the task force, my concern would be.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's the only date I have on there. So to be honest with you, I don't know when they cited it on any of the other ones.
Right. So then to the task force, my concern would be that this very well may be a exemption worth citing, but 6727 requires justification of withholding made to the requester, and so my concern would be that that justification wasn't produced until correspondence with the task force got involved, and that may have left the petitioner somewhat confused. And I can see that why she would be about why she isn't getting a response. It seemed to be kind of vague, just we can't give it out right now type of thing. So that's my concern. That's all I have.
Member Wong.
I guess the one other place that I see it is in the packet on P664. I think that's page 100. P664. It looks like it's a standard piece of a unit order. And it was sent by Acting Captain David Falzon. I think you see it in bullet point 2, and that is attachment 3 referenced in, scrolling up, I think it's P637. Sorry, P646. Is that correct? Sorry, it's P645. And then it says it was sent on November 6th, which is, it's still a month past the request date, but I just wanted to point it out. And it's not specifically explained, but it is referenced in that attachment.
Anybody else? Any other? More, it sounds like we've got more clarifying questions here. No? Okay. I have a question. Lieutenant Para, I'm looking on page 664. It's that P664. Do you have that in front of you?
You know what? Mine's not numbered that way, so I'm not
so
sure what you're referring to. But go ahead, tell me about the document. Go ahead.
It's page 100 out of 134. If you're looking at it as a PDF.
I don't have any of that. I have hard copies.
Okay.
So
this is the unit order index number 20-18 that Elena is referring to, and I'm just wondering. Okay. It's the subject says procedures for the release of police reports to the public, and it was signed by Captain David Falzone.
Okay, I have it in front of me.
507. Okay.
Okay.
This is issued to the Crime Information Services Unit. This is what she's referring to here. Is this the process for this particular case? Is this the procedure that was being followed?
This would have been their unit order. So this is what they would have followed.
Right. Okay. This is what they would follow. Okay. So let me switch to Eliana. When you say that the ME's report is no correlation with regards to this this unit order, kind of like, I guess, this procedure, where in this procedure are you seeing that? Can you point that out to me?
So it only states, okay, so what I'm receiving during that time is that SFPD says they cannot release the ME or the incident report without the ME's approval. But as I'm looking at that policy, it says only in number 8 that the investigative unit shall have the ultimate authority as the final disposition of the police report release. But there's no correlation to the ME office. Like, there's no policy for that. Does that kind of make sense? There's no where it's not completely reviewed. Like, there's no incident report that's reviewed by the medical examiner's office before being released to the public or person who's requesting that report.
Thank you. Okay, do you follow where I'm going here, Lieutenant Perro?
Well, I don't know if you're seeing it the same as me, but go ahead.
Well, it's just that I'm listening to what Eliana is saying, and I'm just asking a question, and I don't have an answer. Only you folks can kind of answer that. And the question is that is the investigative unit in managing investigation, have a requirement for the ME report in order to release it. I mean, it doesn't state in these very explicit procedure that the ME's report is needed for anything.
Well, this is a general document that's used for all different types of releases. They're not just speaking, about homicide cases. But the way I read it is different than you, because I'm seeing investigative unit. I'm thinking medical examiner as an investigative unit. I'm seeing them as being the one that's releasing it. Like, there's the burglary unit, and there's the homicide unit, and there's the medical examiner unit. You get what I'm saying? So these are all investigative units. So that's the way I see it. I may be wrong, but I just know from past practice this is how we've done it. Because ultimately makes a decision on what happens with on any of these cases with death is the medical examiner. If they deem something is a homicide, then homicide will take over. If they say it's natural causes, then it's a medical examiner case. We don't have anything to do with it.
I understand it from your perspective, but the public has a right to know. And if there are certain documents available to the public in the case of this particular order, is a procedure for the release of reports to the public. I mean, the public has to rely on it. It can't be just, in the administration of it, be, kind of laissez-faire. The public has, is relying on procedures, and the police department is kind of the ultimate front end of the law. So, I think it's making me feel a little uneasy, your response.
Well, my understanding is that this is technically it's not a closed case with homicide, so it's open with them. They're going to be the next ones to get it in line. So
right. But let me ask you something.
So they can't release it if. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Does the word investigative unit, is that a general term for any unit that is managing an investigation, or is the investigative unit a very specific entity.
It's a generic term is kind of what I'm getting at. Like there's a homicide detail that's an investigative unit. You have a burglary detail, they're an investigative unit. You know what I'm saying? There's a narcotics, they're an investigative unit. So
it's a category.
Yeah, it's anybody that does an investigation,
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay, okay, members, so let's deliberate and see what, is there an action? So the petitioner is suggesting a violation of 6721B for timeliness.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking among ourselves now so that we can formulate an action. So if you can just stand by for a moment, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry.
Member Schmidt, I'll just put, this may be a motion that may not be the only motion, but I'll put a motion on based on, I don't see a violation here, so I would move to dismiss.
No violation.
No violation.
Okay. Second. Vice Chair Yankee.
I'm not seconding, but I'm actually thinking that there's a 6727.
Okay, wait a minute. There's a motion's been made. Let me see if there's a second. If there's no second, then it'll die. So before you move on, is there a second to the motion to find no violation?
Does it die? Is that how it works?
Yeah, if there's no second, then it dies. That's why we asked for a second. Okay, last call for a second. Okay, no second, the motion dies. Vice Chair Yankee.
Yeah, I'm thinking that there may be a violation of 6727. I'm not necessarily seeing the timeliness issue. I think that there might have to be an investigation completed, and I understand that. My concern more is that a specific reference to the government code exemption was at 6254F wasn't given explicitly to the petitioner, and I think that should have been at the outset. So I'm not necessarily making a motion, but that's kind of where my thought process is. I don't know what other members think.
Anybody else?
I just have a question, Matthew. Is that a reference to 6727 or 6724F as in Frank?
I'm thinking it would be a violation of admin code 6727 for not justifying the withholding. I'm just mentioning that it seems that the justification that they eventually used was government code 6254. However, that justification is not provided in writing to the records requester as a justification, which is what's required under 6727.
This is Member Wong. It sounds like a motion to me.
All right, I will make that motion. I'll explicitly here. I move to find a violation under 6727 for not justifying the withholding in writing.
This is Member Wong. I will second the motion.
Okay, moved by second by Member Wong. To find in violation of 67 for not justifying the withholding in writing. Okay. Discussion. Okay, public comment. And I hand it to you, Ms. Leger, to run public comment. Go ahead.
Public comment is open. Do we have public commenters? Second call for public commenters. Do we have public commenters on the motion? Chair, doesn't sound like anybody is providing public comment on this motion.
So public comment is closed. Any last thoughts, members? Or are we ready for a vote? Okay, hearing no objections, please call the roll.
Vice Chair Yankee?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yankee, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Forsley, absent. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
I'm sorry?
Aye.
Okay. Member Neighbors, aye. Member Highland?
Aye.
Member Highland, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Member Padmanabhan?
Aye.
Member Padmanabhan, aye. Member Schmidt?
Nay.
No. Member Schmidt, no. Member LaHood? Member LaHood?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Chair Wolf?
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. Moved by Vice Chair Yankee, seconded by Member Wong to find a violation of 67.27 for not justifying the withholding in writing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for parties for attending. Please
Thank
call the
you.
next item.
Thank you.
Next item, item number 11, file number 20011, complaint filed by Ahimsa Porter Sumchai against Mayor London Breed and the Office of the Mayor for allegedly violating Administrative Code sections 6715, 67.5, 67.6 by failing to have a meeting quorum and failing to conduct business in a proper manner, failing to notice the time and the place of the meeting, and failing to allow public comment. On May 18, 2021, the Complaint Committee moved to find there is jurisdiction, the requested records are public, and to forward to the task force with the recommendation of finding that there is no new information that justifies reconsidering the prior decision as requested by the petitioner. On August 17, 2021, the Complaint Committee found that the task force has jurisdictions because this is either a passive meeting body or a policy body, and that the committee believes this is a public meeting. The committee stated that the matter of the slides, information that was offered by the petitioner, and rejection may have been a denial of rights under the ordinance and the Brown Act, and possible denial under the state or federal constitution on the meeting of January 27, 2020.
Okay. Member Schmidt, Complaint Committee Chair, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what was just read. There was a little bit of a convoluted history on this one. It sort of bounced back and forth, partly because of the way the documents were. It was presented as a reconsideration, and reconsideration, that water's under the bridge. There's no reconsideration being considered here today. But what was hidden in a way was under the request for consideration was a new item, which is an alleged denial that took place with regards to a subsequent meeting in January 2020, where Dr. Sumchai made a request to have certain slides shown. And even though prior to the request that she made, she asked first, may I make comment, may I submit documents? And she was told yes. And then she submitted the documents and they said, no, you can't use those. And so that's what this is specifically about. And there's a specific provision in the Brown Act about, basically we call it content neutrality when you're talking about constitutional law. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to throw in the constitutional provisions here, because the concern here would be, was she denied that opportunity to present what she had because of the content, as opposed to some, you know, some procedural or bureaucratic reason that had nothing to do with the content.
Okay, great. Did the committee address the respondents in the complaint? I mean, the respondents are the Sunshine Task Force, and naming myself as chair and naming Cheryl Leger as the clerk.
Well, I know there's a separate, at some point, there was a separate complaint, but it was much later. This right here, the way it got here is, you know, I don't know if I necessarily need to get into this, but this specifically is limited because the task force told us, at the task force meeting, we decided we're only going to deal with this one here. And so that's what this is. That complaint against y'all was something that took place 10 months subsequent.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Just want to get clear
Sure.
Of what's in the record. Okay, so let's start our regular hearing procedure here. Each party will have 5 minutes to speak on testimony. Is Dr. Sumchai present?
Yes.
Okay, and is a representative or the mayor present?
Yes.
And can you state your name, please?
Elise Vincent, Office Manager of the Hunters Point Shipyard Citizens Advisory Committee.
Okay. Before we start, Dr. Sumchai, I want to clarify our agenda states that it's against Mayor London Breed and the office of the mayor. Is that who the respondent is for today?
Yes, this is a organization of mayoral appointees. The original complaint is generated against Mayor to the administrator, specific administrator.
So is the focus of today's hearing on the mayor and the office of the mayor, or is it on the Hunters Point Shipyard CAC?
Hunters Point Shipyard CAC is the mayor's Shipyard CAC and our mayoral appointment.
Yeah, I understand that, but the agenda specifically says that the complaint is filed against the mayor and the office of the mayor. It doesn't specify any other party.
My complaints in this matter have always been directed towards the mayor for reasons that we to expound on. There is a audio tape in which the presenter for the initial meeting in file number 19077 admits that the mayor instructed him not to speak.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's clear, because the rest of the task force has to be able to address the right party. Let me ask the respondent. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name again. Please repeat it.
Elise Vincent.
Are you here representing the mayor?
I don't represent the mayor at all. So Dr. Hempstead is correct that the CAC board members are mayor appointed, but we are independent contractors contracting with OCII, the Office of Community Infrastructure and Investment, and we do admin services for the board. And we were the ones that told her, anyway, I won't get into that, but I don't represent the mayor. I don't work for the mayor's office. It is just that the board members are appointed by the mayor. This is a passive, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Member Schmidt, what is your understanding here?
Yeah, I good catch on this. I'm not quite sure. Well, if it's against the mayor, I wonder. I'll ask Cheryl if you don't mind. Cheryl, does the mayor's office get correspondence about this matter? Do you know?
Yeah, in fact, I believe I sent the agenda and the notice to Hank Heckel, who has consistently represented the mayor's office. I know that Mr. Heckel has requested that I also notify Elise Vinson and Micah Fobbs, who I believe are part of the group that Ms. Vinson is representing today.
Okay, so the mayor's office has notification.
Yeah.
But they
each
are
time
not here, it sounds
Hank
like.
Heckel showed up.
Yeah,
He has showed up.
Heckel sent a communication about an hour before the meeting started on behalf of Ms. Vinson to Cheryl Legier that I objected to. So Mr. Heckel today was involved in this hearing.
Okay, hold on a second. Vice Chair Yankee?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that on page P700, along with Mayor London Breed, the complaint intake form also includes Mayor's Hunter Point Shipyard Citizens Advisory Committee. So there was a complaint made against them. Why that didn't make it into specifically in the agenda, I don't know. But Ms. Sumchai did include them in her initial complaint form.
Yeah, I hear you on that, but I would that's why I'm asking Member Schmidt, because if you remember, this had come to us once before, got returned back to, I think this is the one that got returned back to committee.
Right. It was my understanding that this was the portion that had to do with the Hunters Point Shipyard meeting, and that was what was going back to.
I guess I'm trying to get clarification, because what's on the agenda specifies the respondent as the mayor and the office of the mayor, despite the original intake form that goes back to December 2020 being for other parties. So the question I'm asking is really back to Dr. Sumchai is, is who is the focus of the complaint against at this point in time today? Is it how it's written on the agenda, or is it how it's written on the original complaint form on page 700?
This is the exact same body that I filed the initial complaint against in July of 2019 in file number 19077. It is the same body. It is the same type of conduct. And I hold the mayor's office responsible. And again, Mr. Heckel was here earlier.
Okay, so it sounds like if I hear you correctly, it sounds like that you're holding the mayor's office, or the mayor and the mayor's office, responsible for this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then we'll proceed under that assumption. At this point, we'll hold that to be true. Ms. Vincent, if you're not here to represent the mayor or the mayor's office, is there somebody else here present?
I'm
Somebody
sorry,
else?
but we've been here 4 times. She's always written the complaint that way, and it hasn't been a problem before. I don't know if Hank Herkel is on. The mayor's office has no idea what happened at these meetings or anything like that. She's holding the mayor office responsible because the board members are mayor appointed. But the complaint itself is against what she claims the actions of my office did. This is our 4th meeting. We've been able to speak on our behalf. I'm not understanding why it's a problem today.
Because we haven't been able to start this hearing. So we're trying to assure that we're getting the right respondent. I mean, the point is that the mayor's responsible for the administration of the Sunshine Ordinance to everything in the executive branch under her control, which includes the Citizens Advisory Committee.
So if Hank isn't on, then we are the only people representing. Excuse me. If Hank isn't on, and I am the only person here to represent.
So if the respondent is the mayor, we're going to find the mayor. If it comes to pass that the task force finds a violation, it's going to be against the mayor, not against the Citizens Advisory Committee. And you're going to be your representative.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Then let's proceed. 5 minutes for each party. The petitioner complainant goes first. Dr. Sumchai, please wait for Ms. Leger. She'll let you know when the time clock is ready. Thank you.
Dr. Sumchai, are you ready to speak?
Yes.
You may proceed.
My name is Dr. Ahimsa Porter Sumchai, and I will try to keep my comments brief. I know that for many of you, this is not your first rodeo matter, and I have telemedicine consults that start tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. But the agenda actually cites the complaints from file number 19077, in which a meeting was held on July 17, 2019, that had no quorum started. In fact, there was only one member of the committee present, and there is videotape that I captured sitting in the front row that showed that there was not a quorum. I stated there was not